Okay, tonight is the 3rd of August, and this is the 18th time we are talking on the Digha Nikaya Suttas. Tonight we come to Sutta number 23, Payasi Sutta. It's about Payasi. Thus have I heard. Once the Venerable Kumara Kassapa was touring round Kosala with a large company of about 500 monks, and he came to stay at a town called Setavya. He stayed to the north of Setavya in the Singsapa forest, and at that time Prince Payasi was living at Setavya, a populous place full of grass, timber, water and corn, which had been given to him by King Pasenadi of Kosala as a royal gift and with royal powers. And Prince Payasi developed the following evil opinion: there is no other world, there are no spontaneously born beings, there is no fruit or result of good or evil deeds. Stop here for a moment. This view is called worldly wrong view. That there is no karma vipaka, that there are no other worlds of rebirth. The thing not mentioned here is there are no holy men. Meanwhile, the Brahmins and householders of Setavya heard the news. The ascetic Kumara Kassapa, a disciple of the ascetic Gotama, is touring round Kosala with a large company of about 500 monks. He has arrived at Setavya and is staying to the north of Setavya in the Singsapa forest. And concerning the Reverend Kassapa, a good report has been spread about. He is learned, experienced, wise, well-informed, a fine speaker, able to give good replies, venerable and arahant, and it's good to see such arahants. And so the Brahmins and householders of Setavya, leaving Setavya by the north gate in large numbers, made for the Singsapa forest. And just then Prince Payasi had gone up to the veranda for his midday rest. Seeing all the Brahmins and householders making for the Singsapa forest, he asked his steward why. The steward said, "Sir, it is the ascetic Kumara Kassapa, a disciple of the ascetic Gotama," etc., etc. And concerning him, a good report has been spread about. That is why they are going to see him. And he said, "Well then, steward, you go to the Brahmins and householders of Setavya and say, 'Gentlemen, Prince Payasi says, please wait. The prince will come to see the ascetic Kumara Kassapa.' Already this ascetic Kumara Kassapa has been teaching these foolish and inexperienced Brahmins and householders of Setavya that there is another world, that there are spontaneously born beings, and that there is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. But no such things exist." And the steward said, "Very good, sir," and delivered the message. So, sorry for a moment. So here he knows what the Buddha and the Buddha's disciples teach. And to him, the Buddha and Buddha's disciples teach wrong view. So he wanted to go and probably have a debate. Then Prince Payasi, accompanied by the Brahmins and householders of Setavya, went to the Singsapa forest, where the Venerable Kumara Kassapa was. Having exchanged courtesies with the Venerable Kumara Kassapa, he sat down to one side, and some of the Brahmins and householders saluted the Venerable Kumara Kassapa, and then sat down to one side, while some first exchanged courtesies with him. Some saluted him with joined palms, some announced their name and clan, and some silently sat down to one side. Then Prince Payasi said to the Venerable Kumara Kassapa, "Reverend Kassapa, I hold to this tenet and this view. There is no other world. There are no spontaneously born beings. There is no fruit or result of good or evil deeds." And Venerable Kumara Kassapa said, "Well, Prince, I have never seen or heard of such a tenet or view as you declare. And so, Prince, I will question you about it, and you shall reply as you think fit. What do you think, Prince? Are the sun and the moon in this world or another? Are they gods or humans?" And he replied, "Reverend Kassapa, they are in another world, and they are gods, not humans. Then Venerable Kassapa said, in the same way, Prince, you should consider there is another world. There are spontaneously born beings. There is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. Stop here for a moment. So here he says, there is no other world, but immediately this Venerable Kumara made him acknowledge that when he says the sun and the moon, he refers to the sun and the moon god. Since the sun can be seen and the moon can be seen, and the Indian belief is that they have gods there. So, and he acknowledges that they are gods and they are in another world. So immediately his argument is refuted by Reverend Kassapa. But he was quite stubborn, so he continued. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. There are no spontaneously born beings, and there is no fruit or result of good and evil deeds. And the Venerable Kassapa asked, have you any reasons for this assertion, Prince? And he said, I have, Reverend Kassapa. How is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, I have friends, colleagues, and blood relations who take life, take what is not given, commit sexual offenses, tell lies, use abusive, harsh, and frivolous speech, who are greedy, full of hatred and hold wrong views. Eventually they become ill, suffering, diseased, and when I am sure they will not recover, I go to them and say, there are certain ascetics and Brahmins who declare and believe that those who take life, etc., hold wrong views, will after death, at the breaking up of the body, be born in a state of woe, an evil place, a place of punishment in hell. Now you have done these things, and if what these ascetics and Brahmins say is true, that is where you will go. Now if after death you go to a state of woe, to hell, come to me and declare that there is another world. There are spontaneously born beings. There is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. You, gentlemen, are trustworthy and dependable, and what you have seen shall be as if I had seen it myself. So it will be. But although they agreed, they neither came to tell me nor did they send a messenger. That, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining there is no other world. There are no spontaneously born beings. There is no fruit or result of good or evil deeds. And Arahant said, as to that, Prince, I will question you about it, and you shall reply as you think fit. What do you think, Prince? Suppose they were to bring a thief before you caught in the act, and say, this man, Lord, is a thief caught in the act. Sentence him to any punishment you wish. And you might say, bind this man's arms tightly behind him with a strong rope, shave his head closely, and lead him to the rough sound of a drum through the streets and squares, and out through the southern gate, and there cut off his head. And they saying, very good, in assent, might lead him out through the southern gate, and there cut off his head. Now if that thief were to say to the executioners, good executioners, in this town or village I have friends, colleagues, and blood relations. Please wait till I have visited them. Would he get his wish? Or would they just cut off that talkative thief's head? And Payasi said, he would not get his wish, Reverend Kassapa. They would just cut off his head. So, Prince, this thief could not even get his human executioners to wait while he visited his friends and relations. So how can your friends, colleagues, and blood relations, who have committed all these misdeeds, having died and gone to a place of woe, prevail upon the warders of hell, saying, good warders of hell, please wait till we report to Prince Payasi there is another world. There are spontaneously born beings. There is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. Therefore, Prince, admit that there is another world. Stop here for a moment. So here this Venerable Kassapa, he gives a very good example because this Payasi says, those people who have broken all the precepts, they expect to go to hell, and he asks them to come back. But this Reverend Kassapa shows him that even in this human world, when somebody is to be executed, he has no chance to inform his relatives or friends. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think that there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, I have friends, etc., who abstain from taking life, from taking what is not given, from committing sexual offenses, from telling lies or using abusive, harsh and frivolous speech, who are not greedy or full of hatred, and who have right views. Eventually they become ill, etc. And when I am sure they will not recover, I go to them and say, there are certain ascetics and Brahmins who declare and believe that those who abstain from taking life, etc., and have right views, will, after death, at the breaking up of the body, be born in a happy state, a heavenly world. Now you have refrained from doing all these evil things. And what if these ascetics and Brahmins say is true? That is where you will go. Now if after death you go to a happy state, a heavenly world, come to me and declare that there is another world. You, gentlemen, are trustworthy and dependable, and what you have seen shall be as if I had seen it myself. So it will be. But although they agreed, they neither came to me nor did they send a messenger. That, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining there is no other world, etc. And Reverend Kassapa said, well then, Prince, I will give you a parable, because some wise people understand what is said by means of parables. Suppose a man had fallen headfirst into a cesspit, that means a shithole, and you were to say to your men, pull that man out of the cesspit, and they would say, very good, and did so. Then you would tell them to clean his body thoroughly of the filth with bamboo scrapers, and then to give him a triple shampoo with yellow loam. Then you would tell them to anoint his body with oil, and then to clean him 3 times with fine soap powder. Then you would tell them to dress his hair and beard, and to adorn him with fine garlands, ointments, and clothes. Finally, you would tell them to lead him up to your palace, and let him indulge in the pleasures of the 5 senses, and they would do so. What do you think, Prince? Would that man, having been well washed, with his hair and beard dressed, adorned and garlanded, clothed in white, and having been conveyed up to the palace, enjoying and reveling in the pleasures of the 5 senses, want to be plunged once more into that cesspit? No, Reverend Kassapa. Why not? Because that cesspit is unclean and considered so, evil-smelling, horrible, revolting, and generally considered to be so. And Reverend Kassapa said, in just the same way, Prince, human beings are unclean, evil-smelling, horrible, revolting, and generally considered to be so by the Devas. So why should your friends, etc., who have not committed any of the offenses and who have after death been born in a happy state, a heavenly world, come back and say, there is another world, there is fruit of good and evil deeds. Therefore, Prince, admit that there is another world. Stop here for a moment. So here is another very good argument. This is a third argument that the person who has gone to heaven, why should he come back to the human world? He's enjoying himself. Just like that man pulled out of the shithole, enjoying himself in the palace. Why should he go back to the human world? So here you see this example. When you consider, you see, like some people, they go into a trance, and then they see this God and that God has come. So in the same way, when you look at this, the God is enjoying himself in heaven. Why should he come into the human body, which is so smelly and revolting to him? So what comes is some very low spirits. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, I have friends who abstain from telling lies, from strong drink and sloth-inducing drugs. Eventually they become ill. There are certain ascetics and Brahmins who declare and believe that those who abstain from taking life and sloth-producing drugs, etc., will be born in a happy state in a heavenly world as companions of the 33 gods. But although they agreed, they neither came to me nor did they send a messenger. That, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining there is no other world, etc. As to that, Prince, I will question you about it, and you shall answer as you think fit. That which is for human beings, Prince, 100 years, is for the 33 gods 1 day and night. 30 of such nights make a month, 12 such months a year, and 1,000 such years are the lifespan of the 33 gods. Now suppose they were to think, after we have indulged in the pleasures of the 5 senses, for 2 or 3 days we will go to Payasi and tell him there is another world. There are spontaneously born beings. There is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. Would they have done so? And he said, no, Reverend Kassapa, because we should be long since dead. But Reverend Kassapa, who has told you that the 33 gods exist and that they are so long-lived? I don't believe the 33 gods exist or are so long-lived. Prince, imagine a man who was blind from birth and could not see dark or light objects, or blue, yellow, red, or crimson ones, could not see the smooth and the rough, could not see the stars and the moon. He might say, there are no dark and light objects, and nobody can see them. There is no sun or moon, and nobody can see them. I am not aware of this thing, and therefore it does not exist. Would he be speaking rightly, Prince? No, Reverend Kassapa. There are dark and light objects, etc. There is a sun and a moon, and anyone who said, I am not aware of this thing, I cannot see it, and therefore it does not exist, would not be speaking rightly. Well, Prince, it appears that your reply is like that of the blind man when you ask how I know about the 33 gods and their longevity. Prince, the other world cannot be seen the way you think with the physical eye. Prince, those ascetics and Brahmins who seek in the jungle thickets and the recesses of the forest for a resting place that is quiet with little noise, they stay there unwearied, ardent, restrained, purifying the divine eye. And with that purified divine eye that exceeds the powers of human sight, they see both this world and the next, and spontaneously born beings. That, Prince, is how the other world can be seen, and not the way you think with the physical eye. Therefore, Prince, admit that there is another world, that there are spontaneously born beings, and that there is fruit and result of good and evil deeds. Stop here for a moment. So here, if a person has gone to the 33 gods and he is enjoying life there, he won't think of coming back for at least 2 or 3 days until he's enjoyed a bit more. By the time he wants to come back, his friends would have died. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Well, Reverend Kassapa, I see here some ascetics and Brahmins who observe morality and are well conducted, and who want to live, who do not want to die, who desire comfort and hate suffering. And it seems to me that if these good ascetics and Brahmins, who are so moral and well conducted, know that after death they will be better off, that these good people would now take poison, take a knife and kill themselves, hang themselves or jump off a cliff. But though they have such knowledge, they still want to live, do not want to die. They desire comfort and hate suffering. And that, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining there is no other world. Well then, Prince, I will give you a parable, because some wise people understand what is said by means of parables. Once upon a time, Prince, a certain Brahmin had 2 wives. One had a son 10 or 12 years old, while the other was pregnant and nearing her time when the Brahmin died. Then this youth said to his mother's co-wife, Lady, whatever wealth and possessions, silver or gold there may be, is all mine. My father made me his heir. At this the Brahmin lady said to the youth, Wait, young man, until I give birth. If the child is a boy, one portion will be his, and if it is a girl, she will become your servant. The youth repeated his words a second time and received the same reply. When he repeated them a third time, the lady took a knife and going into an inner room, cut open her belly, thinking, if only I could find out whether it is a boy or a girl. And thus she destroyed herself and the living embryo, and the wealth as well, just as fools do who seek their inheritance unwisely, heedless of hidden danger. In the same way, Prince, you will foolishly enter on hidden dangers, but unwisely seeking for another world, just as the Brahmin lady did in seeking her inheritance. But Prince, those ascetics and Brahmins who observe morality and are well conducted do not seek to hasten the ripening of that which is not yet ripe, but rather they wisely await its ripening. Their life is profitable to those ascetics and Brahmins, for the longer such moral and well-conducted ascetics and Brahmins remain alive, the greater the merit that they create. They practice for the welfare of the many, for the happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the profit and benefit of devas and humans. Therefore, Prince, admit that there is another world. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, this Prince Payasi is also quite smart, saying if there is another world, then this ascetics and Brahmins, they should commit suicide so that they can go to heaven faster. But this Arahant is smarter, so he gave a very good example of this pregnant woman. And this last part, you see, is quite interesting, that the longer ascetic or Brahmin lives, the more merit he creates, because in the human world, we can create a lot of merit or evil. In the human world, we create more karma than other places of rebirth. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, take the case that they bring a thief before me, caught in the act, and say, "Here, Lord, is a thief caught in the act. Sentence him to whatever punishment you wish." And I say, "Take this man and put him alive in a jar. Seal the mouth and close it with a damp skin. Give it a thick covering of damp clay. Put it in an oven and light the fire." And they do so. When we are sure the man is dead, we remove the jar, break the clay, uncover the mouth, and watch carefully. Maybe we can see his soul escaping. But we do not see any soul escaping, and that is why, Reverend Kassapa, I believe there is no other world. As to that, Prince, I will question you about it, and you shall reply as you think fit. Do you admit that when you have gone for your midday rest, you have seen pleasant visions of parks, forests, delightful country, and lotus ponds? That means in your dreams. I do, Reverend Kassapa. And at that time, are you not watched over by hunchbacks, dwarfs, young girls, and maidens? I am, Reverend Kassapa. And do they observe your soul entering or leaving your body? No, Reverend Kassapa. So they do not see your soul entering or leaving your body even when you are alive. Therefore, how could you see the soul of a dead man entering or leaving his body? Therefore, Prince, admit that there is another world. So here, this is another good example and argument they put forth. This Payasi, probably he has tried this. He put this man alive in a jar and lighted the fire until the man is dead. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, take the case that they bring a thief before me, and I say, weigh this man on the scales alive, then strangle him and weigh him again. And they do so. As long as he was alive, he was lighter, softer, and more flexible. But when he was dead, he was heavier, stiffer, and more inflexible. And that, Reverend Kassapa, is my reason for maintaining there is no other world. Well then, Prince, I will give you a parable. Suppose a man weighed an iron ball that had been heated all day, blazing, burning, fiercely glowing. And suppose that after a time when it had grown cold and gone out, he weighed it again. At which time would it be lighter, softer, or more flexible? when it was hot, burning and glowing, or when it was cold and extinguished. Reverend Kassapa, when that ball of iron is hot, burning and glowing with the elements of fire and air, then it is lighter, softer and more flexible. When without those elements it has grown cold and gone out, it is heavier, stiffer and more inflexible. Well then, Prince, it is just the same with the body. When it has life, heat and consciousness, it is lighter, softer and more flexible. But when it is deprived of life, heat and consciousness, it is heavier, stiffer and more inflexible. In the same way, Prince, you should consider there is another world. Stop here for a moment. So here, this Prince Payasi, they caught a thief, and he weighed this thief. And then, after they killed the thief, and maybe after some time, the corpse becomes stiff already, and then he weighed it again. Then he found that it was heavier. But his reasoning is that if there's a soul inside the body, then when the person dies, the soul would leave the body. So the dead corpse should be lighter. So he said, but it's not true, it's heavier. So the Arahant gave him a very good example. Whatever you may say about that, Reverend Kassapa, I still think there is no other world. Have you any reason for this assertion, Prince? I have, Reverend Kassapa. What is that, Prince? Reverend Kassapa, take the case of a thief that they bring before me, and I say, kill this man without wounding his cuticles, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, or marrow. And they do so. That means they skin him alive. When he is half dead, I say, now lay this man on his back, and perhaps we shall be able to see his soul emerging. They do so, but we cannot see his soul emerging. Then I say, turn him face downwards, on his side, on the other side, stand him up, stand him with his head, stand him on his head, thump him with your fist, stone him, hit him with sticks, strike him with swords, shake him this way and that, and perhaps we shall be able to see his soul emerging. So he's telling the people to do all kinds of things to frighten the soul so that the soul will come out and they can see. And they do all these things, but although he has eyes, he does not perceive objects or their spheres. Although he has ears, he does not hear sounds. Although he has a nose, he does not smell smells. Although he has a tongue, he does not taste tastes. Although he has a body, he does not feel tangibles or their spheres. And that is why, Reverend Kassapa, I believe there is no other world.